Hey everyone, GM Admiral here with a super exciting thing that I want to share with you all. Um, this is completely self-serving, and I understand that. But for the last year, I've been working on a role-playing game called Once Upon, all about storybook roleplay. So essentially, you play characters in a storybook land that is created by the people who are reading your stories, and your job is to go out and be a hero and tell exciting stories so that people build up belief in you, which gets you more powerful as you go through your stories. So this is available on drivethrurpg.com. If you look up Once Upon a Storybook Role-Playing Game, it'll be the first thing that pops up. You will see lots of Once Upon a Times on there, but Once Upon a Storybook, this will be the first thing that pops up. This is a beautiful cover put together by a guy named Katovic, who is from Romania, and he did just such a spectacular job. This is actually the second version of the cover, and the initial version didn't have this bunny over here. We felt like it was really good, but we felt like it didn't quite show all the stuff that could happen within the world of Imaginara. And so we wanted to add a little character there, and Katovic added the bunny, and it's just perfect, like welcoming the kids. This day and age, there are lots of grim fairy tales, lots of like dark fairy tales, and I wanted to go the opposite route with my storytelling. I wanted to tell like a brighter fairy tale, and you notice that we get darkness on the outside, and the kids are moving towards the light, right? Because we were going to be telling bright and happy stories. Now, not everything in the realm of Imaginara is bright and sunny. However, the stories you tell are positive, and if you prefer a different type of role playing, you can absolutely bring that in as well. But this is coming from a place in my heart where I would like to see more positive role playing experiences out there instead of grim dark. So, Once Upon. This is pretty important. I was the creator and the project manager. However, we did have a couple of other writers on the book: Jay Sedelius, Rob Dudock, Alison Saib, Troy Mepians. They all helped out with some of the stories for some of the pre-gens and some of the kingdoms that you'll be seeing. They helped. Gwen went through and did an editing pass on this. Apparently she found like 400 something notations that Jay had to fix. This is I'm pretty happy with what came from this. We did get some art. Jay did the map and a few other pieces of art that he put together on Photoshop. But our primary artist is Arthur Rackham. Arthur Rackham is a fairy tale artist from the late 1800s, early 1900s. His stuff is very classical, and it's all in the public domain, so we were able to use it as we needed. And a lot of these designs and symbols and logos and stuff you'll see actually came from bits of his work. So we try to get very literal, get a lot of literature in here, and so we talk a lot about storytelling, and we like to bring out different fairy tale quotes and things like that along the way. So again, this is the print on demand from DriveThruRPG. So if that interests you, I want to believe it's $30, and you get the hardcover mailed to you, and you also get the PDF immediately. So we start off with an introduction. I'm not going to go into super detail with everything. I just want to give you all a chance to kind of see what we're working with. I talk about storybook roleplay, talk about what you need to play. The big thing that you need for this game is D12s. That is, the threshold system is a D12 pool system that I have created specifically for Once Upon, and looking at bringing it over to some other games as well. Start off with an example of play. I feel like as I am learning more about role-playing games and becoming more of a designer, these example of plays are always super important. So chapter 1 is all about Imaginara. This is the world that you are exploring. Imaginara is essentially this coalesced land of imagination where all the characters that people read in stories manifest, essentially. We have a beautiful map here, like I said, made by Jay. You will notice that we have some of these major public domain IPs like Oz, Wonderland, Avalon, Brobdingnag. We have Neverland over here. They all exist in the realm of Imaginar. We call them the Legendary Lands. We go into them a little bit into the book, but not super in detail. Hoping that a future release will go into more detail for each of the Legendary Lands, because I think there's a lot more there. We talk about how do you create regions. We get a little bit into the gloom here. The gloom is essentially this dark force that is, it's like always drawing to make these characters become forgotten. So that means that the readers in the real world no longer believe in you. You've kind of stopped your heroic journey, and you become consumed by something called the gloom. So you'll notice that we have over a dozen kingdoms in here. Avalon, all the kingdoms are 2 pages. They're set up with a little bit of history of the kingdom, some main characters of the kingdom, specifically ones that you might ally with. We get into notable antagonists, and then notable locations. And you'll notice that each of the kingdoms follow the same format along the way. So like the baronies, this is one that Jay made up. So you'll see, again, some history, notable characters, notable antagonists, notable locations. And you can see there's Brobdingnag, Facet. This is one that I made up. You'll see that like a lot of these kingdoms are not directly related to IPs or fairy tales that are out there. They're more like an amalgamation. So like Facet, this is where they make crystal shoes, or glass shoes, I should say. In fact, they even wear glass armor and things like that. So you will see like callbacks to famous fairy tales, but this is more like an amalgamation of many stories at once. Fungusia, just absolutely hilarious mushroom people that Jay put together. You see that we've got Land of Oz. I tried to go for some of the characters that maybe aren't as familiar from some of the books that are not in the original movie. Some of these are in the second movie, The Return to Oz. But yeah, and all of these pieces of art are Arthur Rackham. So we were able to use his art because he actually did the art for some of the Wizard of Oz books, which is great. So Symphonica, this is another one that Jay came up with. We got a campaign planned with Symphonica that we're hopefully going to write up soon in the next few months. So yeah, tons of different kingdoms that you can use. Talks in here about how you can create kingdoms. We even gave a couple of letters from an adventurer that may be teasing at other kingdoms that exist out there. You'll also notice on the map that not every one of these little villages and whatnot have been labeled with a name. That's because we want you to create your own characters and kingdoms and whatnot, and you can put them somewhere on the map as you wish. So I get into, like I said, we're trying to stay literary here with the book. So we talk about different character roles. These are general concepts about literature, not necessarily what your characters can do. So we talk about protagonists, and antagonists, confidants, tertiary characters, foils. And then we talk about character types, dynamic characters, static characters, stuff that you might learn in an English class, but it's good to have here as a reference for both the storyteller and the players. We do get into character points such as your personality, your relationships, and then we get into our archetypes. This is where the actual mechanical benefits come from. So in the core book here, we have 7 archetypes that you can choose from. And these are basically story seeds that have gotten your character into whatever adventure they're going on. Okay. We also added a random motivation table to help you out if you want some motivations for your character and you're having a tough time coming up with them. You'll notice that each one of these grants 2 bonus points, which we'll be looking at a little bit later. Competencies, these are basically like your skills. Again, they are done up like verbs, whereas methods, this is how you are implementing those verbs. So these are adverbs. You have 4 of them. And based off of your narrative description, you choose which of these you are using on your character. Characters get plot devices. It's a very broad category. We don't micromanage items or anything like that on a character, but if a plot device comes into play, you add dice into your pool. Here's some examples of an item, an attribute, and experiences. You get 1 item plot device, 1 attribute plot device, and 1 experience plot device when you start the game. Melodies, these are singing songs. The more rules for melodies later on. Virtues, this is like who your character is, and if your virtue comes into play once per story, you can reroll your dice pool. Easy as that. We go into how to create a character. What's awesome? It's 1 page. 1 page character creation. So, and then we get into character advancement as well. We go into the rules of the threshold system. Basically, threshold is a target number on a D12. Again, you never roll dice unless the outcome is something that can be questioned, and it's almost always a difficulty 1 if the outcome is questioned. We talk about how you get your pool of dice. Talk about adding and subtracting dice, and then we talk about adjusting your threshold. So, if you are for each point you are trained in a competency, it reduces your threshold by 1. All thresholds start at 12. So if you are level 3 in one of your competencies, that means 9s on your dice are successes. We talk about problems here. Problems, so we don't use hit points or anything like that in Once Upon. We use problems instead. My favorite thing is scene tests. This is basically where you tell a story, and as you're telling a story with the other people at the table, you roll to see what happens. And it's a way to get around a combat that might have many different characters involved. Here's the melodies rules. Antagonists. Antagonists are tough. Like once you get past lackeys, villains and archvillains are no jokes. You really have to push through to deal with them. This is all about the storyteller, right? Setting expectations. We talk about play styles. We talk about safety mechanics, needs and accommodations. I go and look. I even put a plot mountain here. So everything you need. Tons of antagonists of all different tiers are back here. And then we've got the story, which is a touch of silver. It's a good time. And then at the back, you can like kind of make your own story. There are 6 pre-generated characters back here. Each of them have a once upon a time story, and then their actual stats and whatnot here. The one thing that is recommended is that you have some type of tracker, whether that is a bead or something like that, so you can move it along as you gain belief or lose belief along the way. About the author, here's the whole thing on Arthur Rackham. In the back, we did some acknowledgments. These are different stories that we feel like would be very relevant to give you ideas for running the game. Over here, I felt like I would be remiss if I didn't call out Andrew Kolb, who has done the Oz, Neverland, and soon to be the Wonderland book that he put out for 5e. Beautiful, beautiful pieces of work. They would be great supplements to this if you wanted to use them. Please go give Andrew your money if you are planning on running this game. And then lastly, We're All Mad Here by Monty Cook Games also talks a lot about fairy tales and whatnot. So we've got an index, and that pretty much wraps up the book. Pretty excited to see where this goes. I'm excited that the Threshold system has a logo that we might be using on a couple of other different projects. But yeah, very, very happy with how this book looks. I think, you know, $30, you're gonna get every cent of your money out of it by checking this out. So yeah, so head on over to DriveThruRPG, Once Upon a Storybook, and it'll be the first thing that pops up. All right, take care, everyone. Thanks for watching.